Welcome, everyone, to the Resilient Minds podcast. I'm extremely excited because today we get to spend some time with Dr. Haley Perlus. Is that how I pronounce it, the last name?
It was wonderful. It's perfect.
Amazing. So just for those that you don't that don't everyone to the Resilient Minds podcast. I'm extremely excited. For those that don't know you, I'd love to just really go back and share a little bit about some of the knowledge and personal experience that you've provided or in your own experience as an elite athlete, coach, fitness professional, entrepreneur, PhD, all these achievements in sports psychology, overall wellness enthusiast. You've been providing your clients with these necessary, which we used at the beginning, mental tough approaches to achieve their highest level of performance. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about that, about why that's been, your creative outlet, I would call it.
Absolutely. Yes, it is, academic and it's a science. But what I love about my science is that there's so much creativity and art involved. And I grew up as an athlete from Toronto in Canada, and I was fairly good when I was 12. And one day my coach bet on me to win probably the biggest race of that year for me. It was a world championship for my age group. He bet on me to win. And he told me right before I was about to compete. And in that moment, I didn't realize then, but I now know in that moment and in many moments in all of our lives, we are in a mental and emotional fork in the road. And you always focus on conscious thought, which is what I love. And so, on one hand, I could consciously think and then feel anger, frustration, worry, fear. How could a coach bet on me and tell me right before I'm about to compete? On the other hand, passion, alignment, challenge, confidence. If my coach believes in me so much that he's willing to bet on me, doesn't that mean I'm doing something right? Now, I can't tell you that at 12 years old and with the 10 seconds that I had left, I stood there and I said, Haley, you are at an emotional and a mental fork in the road. How are you going to be your most resilient, mentally tough self? But I do remember thinking, if my coach has high expectations of me, doesn't that mean I'm good at this?
Mm.
And then I remembered all the reasons why I can win. This is my favorite event. I'm a technical athlete. This is a technical course. I've slept well. I've won every race so far this season. So I went down and I won, which was wonderful. My coach congratulated me, kept the money for himself. But he said to me, it's amazing what your performance can be when you get your head straight. And then 2 weeks later, he brought a sports psychologist to come and speak to my team. And I don't even remember what she said. I just thought it was the coolest thing, how to master this so that my body can do what I've been training it to do. And I can, have these cool experiences in life. And so I went home at 12 years old and I told my parents that I wanted to be a sports psych gal when I grew up.
It's interesting because when I was growing up, I didn't really have the awareness of the body and the somatic behavior and the importance, but I loved, absolutely loved being in the body. I loved moving, sports, training, exercise, whatever it took, I would push myself. And I'm curious, where do you feel that this why, you went into this racing, your coach was supporting you, believed in you, other people believed in you, you started to believe in yourself. So that mental toughness was, like you said, already instilled in you. My curiosity is, do you remember, or is there a time at point in your life at an early space, even before this experience, where you started to discover this curiosity in yourself or maybe outside of you, just to kind of map it back to an early age, because this vitality, I believe, is something that we haven't been, a lot of us, taught to believe in or pay attention to at a young age. And so I'm curious to map back out to your experience, if that's something that was prevalent in an early childhood.
Leadership and teamwork, if you will, which was my family. I had a very fortunate, I'm fortunate. And I grew up with two amazing parents, two amazing brothers. And the philosophy was always, which are my three values today: love, health, and adventure. And I believe that was ingrained in me. I believe in both nurture and nature, but I think it's part of who I am. But I also believe that the environment in which I grew up in just encouraged that even more. And then with this experience that I had, I've always had great teachers in my parents. And this coach, I just, not only was I just amazed at the mind body connection, but that I was always also amazed at the influence one person can have on another. And I'm not going to go and tell everyone, every coach out there to bet on their athletes or teachers to bet on their students. But he also knew me, and he also took the time to care. And that, to me, that influence is massive. And so I started devoting my research, my education, and my life really to not only achieving fulfillment for myself, but also helping others achieve it. So my purpose, my why, which I know is something that you're very interested in, which is essential, is to help us all highlight our strengths so that we can be the champions of our lives, full of love, health, and adventure. So I want to do it for myself, and I want to help everyone focus on their strengths, highlight their strengths while they're working on all the areas of improvement.
And it's interesting because you bring it together where I believe life is such a beautiful adventure, right? It gives us the experience to really navigate what I call the playground.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the playground becomes just, when I was a kid, I would always say, hey, let's go to the playground, and the playground is just bigger, let's go play, right? So, so that's the way I like to see it anyways. And for me, this is something beautiful that you're introducing, to your clients and to the people that you serve. So what does it look like when you're facing some adversity? Because I think that, we map out the why and the purpose. And I find that, most people, when we're in that state of toughness or mental toughness, they also face adversity. And so that means that when they start to approach their own certainty and they choose to operate from that place of healthiness, love, and adventure, that oftentimes they'll attract a lot of unhealthiness as well, because I mean that's just the paradigm of the duality, right? And so what does that look like in your experience to really tap into that knowingness, especially when the external world or other people's traumas are projected onto you or to the people that you serve? I'm curious to know your insight from this.
Absolutely. It's training, it's practice. And you can't just start training when you need it. You need to do the training ahead of time so that when you do need it, it's ingrained. So for me, every single day, and I mean every single day, I connect with all the things, and there's lots, but I really focus on three. Connect with all the things that ground me, bring myself back to center, which then, if and when I'm faced with adversity, I don't have to go searching because it's there. And I'm very, again, fortunate. I live in Colorado. I love nature. Now, I love the mountains. I'm also a water girl. So when I go back and visit my family in Canada, we're on the water, and that is just, my sweet spot as well. But every single day, I'm either out there looking outside or looking at a picture of it. So I'm always connecting with nature. Music, music moves me. So I know that that moves me. And for me, hearing, I'm a face to face or at least voice to voice. Like I speak to my mother every single day. And so these are the three things. And I practice it, I train it so that when something hard hits, I have that foundation. In sports, it always comes back to the fundamentals. That's what athletes say. When the going gets tough, I got to bring it back down to the fundamentals. And for me and for all of us, we have these fundamental practices that ground us and bring us back to our true self. And we have to take advantage of them. We have to do that work for ourselves. And then it makes it easier. Certainly, it's not easy, but it makes it easier to feel the fears, to confront the fears, to work through the fears so that we can, be the best that we can be in that moment.
Tell us more about kind of your adversities, maybe something that you faced that took you in out of a loop and maybe um you had to come back to your center. I'm curious if you don't mind.
No. Um, I haven't, I have lived a blessed life, and that doesn't mean that my stressors and my adversities are, I'm just going to say that they don't exist. I almost was kicked out of my doctorate program. I have been divorced. I thought, definitely thought I'd have children, and I do not. So these are types of things that I've had to uh, work with. I don't even know that I always believe working through because they're always there. So it's almost like you just collect all of them and here we go together, and all the lessons that I've learned and all of my adversity, the character that that has built inside me, I'm working with it all the time. But those are moments where I had to, again, that training and the practice, go back to my values of love, health, and adventure. And love always reconnected to the people that I was with, almost getting kicked out of my PhD. And it was not because I was a bad student. I just want to make that clear because I was, just so my parents know that I wasn't failing out of school. It was simply because I wanted to do different things than my advisor wanted me to do. I was never someone to want to do research. I wanted to play in the field, as we'll use that word, which I love. I wanted to teach. I wanted to apply. Didn't want to be in a room in a lab doing research. And I was basically told may have to go find a different program. So I had to work through that adversity. And then going through a divorce, which was very difficult because you don't love, relationship to me is so important. And then there's the unknown, right? And I'll never forget my father said to me, cry. And this is actually really important training that I think we all need to embrace. Cry so that you can then get up. And I let myself cry. I really, really cry. And then the other lesson is there's the fear of the unknown or the excitement of the unknown. And now where I sit today in my love life, whew, I'm happy I chose excitement because that allowed me to put myself out there and seek adventure and be with someone who is a wonderful match.
That's so beautiful. It's interesting how when we tap into the passion, it doesn't matter. We're relentless in creating something. And I too, have experienced divorce and multiple failed experiences in terms of relationship. And what I've learned is that I've refined the relationship with myself. And that is ultimate like freedom for me, because it has given me the certainty in knowing who I am as an individual and that the value is within me, right? And having that internal strength to really be willing to show up and create from a place of experience. It's like starting over, we're not really starting over from scratch, starting over from experience. There's a lot more benefit there. And
Ooh,
I
I
think
like that. I
uh,
do like that. I've never heard it put that way. Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
so this is something that I find uh, a beautiful internal shift, because that internal shift gives gives me more certainty, because then I see the patterns, and then I say, oh, that was a pattern last time. I can change my behavior now. I can approach it from an even more empowering state. And then as a result, really emphasize a change. And I love that you chose to be a active participant and not an observer of your own, research. Because I think this is something that, myself included, I can resonate deeply, that we spend more time theorizing and stuck in the head versus actually going out and doing things. And this is something that I get really I I was gonna say triggered, but I don't think it's a trigger. I think it's just like I choose to learn from the few who do versus the many that talk, you know? And to me that's even more fulfilling, because then I can follow in the footsteps of those role models, or observe, like I'm learning from you, different things. Because I believe we all have something to give, and we all learn from each other. Everyone has wisdom. It's all coming from a deeper place.
Absolutely. And what makes someone a great teacher is being a great student. And and it's an interesting thing. I learn just as you, I learn from people who are doing. But you asked me about my adversity. And again, I have gone through my fair share of adversities, but I'm also a learner of others people's adversities. I don't need for myself, I don't need to hit rock bottom. I can watch other people and I can learn from their stories to know that I don't want to, if to whatever extent I can prevent it, I will. So I learned from both people who have already overcome their adversity and doing. And then I also learned from around me people who are going through adversity. And I it's awful to, maybe not great to say, but thank you for showing me what may come of this life, because I don't want to have to go through what I see you going through, and I'm going to help you come out of it, and being very cognizant that I don't experience that either. So I learn from everyone.
Wisdom. Beautiful wisdom. Very important. I love hearing that. That's the innocence and the playfulness that I see in each of us as like big kids. When we are curious enough to observe and willing enough to say, "Hey, I don't know. Can you teach me?" Or, "Hey, you know better. Show me how." And that playfulness and that innocence, like there's nothing more freeing. And I'm curious, like, where did this type of behavior stem from, to be willing to be so open and transparent, come from?
My upbringing. I have a mother who every morning she would wake me up for school, turn on music, get me out of bed, and we dance every morning. And I have a father whose parents and family were come from the Holocaust, and just I guess what he went through, and being an immigrant to Canada, and then building a life, and what just the exposure piece and the hard work, like the the commitment. And then he also, we were just talking about it last week, he and I, he had a commitment to create something, but he was not going to abandon play while he was creating it. So he wasn't someone who was just trying to collect and collect and collect. And then suddenly he's 50, 60 years old and now he can go play. we as a family, he and my mom would go off and enjoy themselves, and then we as a family would go off and enjoy ourselves. So while he was working hard, he was playing even harder. And uh, instead of holding off and waiting for one day, he doesn't believe in waiting for one day. And I think that's also instilled in me. So I have the free and the dance, and my mom is also a child whisperer. So she's got this innocent, playful sense. And then the combination of striving and commitment, but then also just being really present and loving the life you have in the moment. I think that's really rubbed off on me.
See it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
And
clear.
then,
It's
yeah.
clear. It's amazing to see the clarity that you have in yourself. It's amazing to see the wisdom that you carry, and it's refreshing because having healthy mirrors like this is it's very much needed in the world. Uh, and I'll say this because it's important, especially uh, empowered women that don't project trauma because they have gone through things in the past to an empowered man. And I think that there's a lot of that happening in the world, which is really unfortunate. And I'm an intense guy. I'm an intense
Really?
guy.
You?
So, so, so it's nice to have healthy feminine energy around me because uh, I also attract very unhealthy, and so it gives me the ability to stand in my power, uh, which I do. And then in the past, I didn't know how to. So I think that this is something that there's the empowerment experience, and so understanding that there's that dance and that compassion that we have to discover in ourselves, which I think in the past I didn't know how to, right? I did because
Mm-hmm,
I didn't know
mm-hmm,
thyself, and so it's
mm-hmm.
nice to see just that clarity with you. I just really want to acknowledge that.
Thank you. I'm really clear on who I surround myself with. Really, I am. In fact, I know that, and I'm proud of myself for that, for acknowledging it and then growing it even more. When people come to me, people don't often come to me because they're happy. People come to me in a work environment because they're struggling and they want to tell me their problems and they want to tell me what they're not good at. If it is an athlete, I work in sports and wellness and then also in business, but if it is sports, they want to tell me what the challenge is first, what they're not good at, and I don't want to hear that yet. I want to hear what your strengths are. And then if we can start there, and if we start, living with our strengths, if we start focusing on those, the other pieces will more easily come together. And I think I do that for myself. I know what I'm good at. I know what I want to improve. But how can I possibly improve at anything if I'm not first shining my strengths?
So tell me, what are some of the things that you want to improve at?
I'm getting better. Uh, one of the reasons, one of the ways that I contributed to my failed marriage or to a second failed relationship, I'm not an angry person, but when I get angry, I linger in it way too long. And maybe it's because it doesn't come often, but when it comes, I sit in it to the point that it doesn't help me and it doesn't help anyone else. And so that's something that I'm improving on, whether it's, um, and I don't believe in just faking it till you make it. I couldn't fake anything even if I tried, but just allowing myself to really feel like my father taught me, cry so that you can then get up. So I will sit in it. Well, I won't sit. I'll usually go climb a mountain, but I will actually before I put on this shirt, I was wearing another shirt that says, move your body, still your mind. And so that's what I do. I go move my body so that I can, and but in that moment, I could be crying on that mountain. I could be talking to myself. I could be talking to my partner, yelling at him even though he's not there. I could be, I'm embracing all of those feelings, and while I'm moving my body, because I've been taught that that's energies moving through you. And then my area of improvement is to use the tools that I teach others, see other people's point of view, see if there is a reframe, is there another way to look at this? What am I really trying to say? Like, it's not about this little incident. So what is it really about? And then once I acknowledge what it's really about, is that something that I need to communicate? Or is this something that I just need to have a little story, the dialogue with myself, and then I can move forward? So I do the work, I sit in it, and then my area of improvement is to I just want it to be a little bit more smoother. I'm just still looking at it to be a little bit more fluid, a little bit more smoother. Really have discernment when to speak up to the other person, or whether it doesn't need to be spoken. It's really just something for me. When you write someone a letter and you either send it or you don't. It's that, it's that moment. So that's what I'm looking to improve. It's getting better, and it's still something that I would like to improve. Let that energy come and go a little bit faster for me.
And it sounds like too that somatic release has been something that you've conditioned yourself, because physiology really is everything. And so it's amazing that you're already so aware of that. Um, if I may, I would love to suggest even more compassion, for yourself.
Mm.
Not for the experience outside of you, for yourself, because what you're seeing is really something that is feeling of whatever the case have been. And I if and I'm going to speak from my experience with my failed relationships.
Please
Uh,
do.
so I've been married, and then in the marriage, that was 7 years ago. That marriage was something that I just was unfulfilled completely. I was focused on achievement, 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 completely unfulfilled. And since I was a little boy, I kept asking myself the questions of who am I and why am I here? So I needed to go out and discover. As I discovered, or as I was discovering myself, I came into contact with a few empowering women, and those empowering women were great teachers, different teachers that had taught me different components. One was, they were all extremely successful. However, one was extremely successful in a different area, different fields, different ways of communicating. And I noticed myself competing with them, because I was wanting to be the same savvy business guy, or the same financially, fiscally intelligent person, or the same, abundant being uh, that they were in different pillars. And so what I realized looking back is that in each of those moments, I asked myself, why did these ladies all what did I have all in common about where's the pattern? And I needed to recognize the pattern. And the pattern was this, that I just am a very loving man.
Mm.
And I have that power and that strength to lead from this, right? And it's not actually, I don't need anything to do that. I just am that. And so what I realized is that once, instead of recognizing their wisdom and honoring their presence and their magic to what they brought to the table, I started to compare myself. And most people in this planet, they compare themselves to each other versus like saying, hey, how can I complement?
Mhm.
And that complement becomes where that sacred union, or that sacred benefit, or that sacred partnership, or that sacred bit, whatever the case is, becomes so beneficial and abundant, because it's when we discover that we're actually here alone, which is part of ancient Egyptian text, that we start to recognize the parts of that energy in each other. And then we have the capacity to then work together or figure out how that harmony really comes together. So for me, that's been such a beautiful realization. And now I realize that because I'm coming from such deep clarity, that people will project their traumas, and that's okay. It's compassion for me because ultimately that's connected to a deeper part of my being that connects us all. And then as a result, it allows me to stay in my peace. And then from that place, I can just hold the energy and I can hold the space. And so from that, it's like, hey, be kinder to yourself. This is what I'm just suggesting. It's what I learned.
No, no, and please don't go like this because I just shared with you. You know, I love to learn. So thank you. That is really it's nice to hear compassion. And I'm sitting here pausing because I know I have a lot of acceptance, but compassion is something that I want to think about. Compassion for myself. Yeah, thank you.
It's the
And
highest form of love.
congratulations. Hmm.
Sorry, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and congratulations to you for that growth, for that
It's
piece.
the highest form of love, compassion, right? So you said love, health, and adventure. Compassion is the highest form of love because it's the capacity to self-love.
Mm-hmm.
It's the capacity to ultimately, when we have it in ourselves, we could then extend it to everybody because it's easy, because we know they're just mirrors of us.
Mm-hmm. And today, you know, you said that compliment. I mean, I feel that in my life today, each and every day, and it's beautiful. And in my work, even too, you know, that piece of complimentary. I don't that research piece. I want to share the world. I want to share the research with the world, but not necessarily do it myself. Other than like in an observing, you know, living life research kind of way. And yeah, it's really just that's something that was an area of improvement, but I am proud of myself for achieving that too. Is really knowing where I fit in my career.
Well, I love that because I think that this is where it comes together, right? This adversity, this purpose, this experience of our vulnerabilities is now how do we create from that inspired and empowered action and
Mhm.
really complement this? Like what I love is conscious living, conscious business, conscious entrepreneurship, conscious leadership. How do we consciously create so that it's a harmony, it's a complementary experience to our life, so that our business is not like, oh my God, I gotta go to work. Oh fuck. It's hey, how can we actually be in service to something greater than ourselves so that we can transform environments? So how does that right now for you resonate in your business, and why did you create that in the way that you did?
You know what I love about what, you know what the moments that I love in my business, in my consulting practice, because that's one aspect, that's one pillar. And when I check in on a client or if we're scheduled and they come to me, so I'll just ask, you know, how are you doing? Would you, you know, are you looking to meet again? Or we already have something in the calendar and they say, I'm good. No, thank you. I'm good. I love that for two reasons. One is that they're constantly coming back to me. We're not getting our jobs done, right? Like if they're constantly coming back and they're not feeling that they can be empowered on their own to go and practice these skills. It's not that I don't actually, there are every person that I've worked with, we still have a relationship, but the graduation phase, right? It's thank you, I'm good. So I love that aspect. And then even more so, I love that they are comfortable saying, no, thank you, I'm good. I'll be in touch. That they feel comfortable, that they don't feel any guilt saying, I don't need you this week. Or, you know, when I ask, them being able to say, no, thank you, I'm good. I love that aspect because that to me is clear. You know, you mentioned, you know, the clarity. To me, that is clear. Nothing is forced. And if they say thank you, I'm good, they feel that they're good. And then they can go test it out. And, but so I really do love that aspect. It's almost, call it it's an informal goal of mine, an informal intention of mine for there to be, it's not goodbye forever, but I'll see you soon because I'm good right now.
Right. So when you have this with your clients, and they feel this transformation within themselves, do you find that that actually is becoming now less of just a client? You're just building relationship, is what I'm hearing. Eventually, they just that have gone through their experience, they built a relationship, it's transformed. Now, my curiosity, your experience, right? Your passion, your why, your purpose, those adversities, your life, love, health, and adventure, sports, psychology, PhD, seeing people transform and create their own now story and encourage them to move on, and they're good. They don't really need your support anymore. What's kind of the next stage for your development? What are you doing right now to create even more of that influence and impact in your community or your family or the places that you're serving?
Because I want to have that more often. That's, the kind of the goal of the relationships that I'm building and the practices that I'm doing. It's in the consulting sessions, in the discussion, when I share tools. It's funny, I often quote Frank Sinatra, his song My Way.
Hmm.
I'll do it my way. I want to teach the science. I want to share stories of how others have done it, perhaps even learn from my time. And then I want everyone that I'm working with to think about how they can apply it to their specific lives, to their specific needs, fine tune it and do it their way. Because to me, what is it? You give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach a man to fish, he'll eat forever. So if these people that I'm working with can be shown the tool, but then be able to finesse it, tweak it, and tailor it in a way that allows them to own it and have it come to life. That's remarkable for me because then they can take those skills and apply it to other aspects. If I'm working in sports, inevitably these athletes are working also on their relationships, are working on getting into, different programs and careers and then transitioning out of sport into a full-time career and getting married and all of these. So the ability to take these tools and to make them transferable, but the only way they can be transferable if someone has the agency and the creativity and the confidence, curiosity, open-mindedness to be able to design it in a way that'll settle in for this particular moment. So that's really what I would love to continue to learn how to do for others and help people do that.
I love it. So you're what I'm hearing, and just correct me if I'm wrong, really helping them design their own lives from this place of fulfillment.
Absolutely.
Love it.
And have options. Now, I don't want to have too many options because I do believe that gets overwhelming and confusing. But when you open up a textbook, I'll never forget. You open up all these scientific textbooks, and it's step one, step two, step three, step four. Well, what if this person's all ready for this, or what if we need to go back here, or what if I want to tweak this a little bit? So I just love the art and science. Sorry, the art with the science.
Yeah, it really brings the coherence together, the head and the heart, right?
Yeah.
And at least for me, it took me a long time to get out of this thing,
I
right?
get
Like
that. I get that.
it's so beautiful to live here. and to really live here. And because being present for me has become I was doing it, I just wasn't aware of it. And so, it's interesting when you're not aware of your own superpower, uh, you don't realize, well, I didn't realize, sorry, I'm not saying you, I didn't realize uh, that it's needed.
You know what the interesting thing is, and I don't know if you have this experience, because I too am a thinker. I too get, but now when I get back into my head and out of my body, or it's noticeable. Like there is a real polarity, and that's good. We need polarity because that helps us create awareness. But I can notice it now. That's also we're always working to make that transition faster and smoother and more fluid. But it is noticeable when I'm there, and I can catch it.
Mm.
The awareness piece, which is cool.
It's so cool. It's so cool. That's why it's important to have amazing mirrors around you.
Mhm.
Like
Like you
healthy.
said before, everyone's a mirror.
Yes, and I also am very selective on the experience that I choose to let in closer to me because uh, my experience has taught me that if we allow things to happen, we get what we tolerate,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so it's important to stand our ground and be willing to repel by being in our core, right? In our
Mhm.
authenticity and all vulnerability. It doesn't mean we don't do our part. It means we step up and do our part. And by being that authenticity, we're naturally going to attract amazing people or repel them, repel
Mhm.
other
And I don't know
people.
what I don't know what your career was before this. I don't know what you were doing before um, conscious business. I know that even though I always knew what I wanted to do since I was 12 years old, there were times where I took a detour, and I don't know that I chose the detour. I think it was recommended to me to take that detour. It was recommended to focus on, let's say, the money versus the everything that I'm talking to you right now. We haven't mentioned the word money once, which is what I love. I took a detour, and oh my goodness, I remember my body. It felt, someone told me that I should go into the diet business and use sports psychology and performance psychology. And so I wrote a book, How to Lose the Last 10 Pounds. And I dove into it. And I just remember feeling, no, I liked still the private practice, but writing a book about something that I was not connected to, and then moving away from the athletes. And now in the last couple of years, I'm like, I brought that aspect back. And it is a definite feeling, definite feeling when you are in alignment and when you are not in alignment. And I'm grateful to know the difference because I went through the difference. So it's grateful to be able to, but you have to clue in. You have to choose to listen. You have to choose to ask the question so
The
you can
quality of
feel
our,
the answer.
the quality of our questions will determine the quality of our life, our relationships, our circumstance. And one thing, what I've learned now as a creator is I have to have people around me that are money focused so that I could be creative focused.
Mhm.
I don't need to, especially if I want to be grounded. This has been especially my experience. I need to have the partners that are, defining the business, are dealing with the team, are focusing on the marketing, are really doing all the things that are keeping me grounded so that I can keep flying. I can keep going forward and I can keep going on the mission. And I really believe that teamwork makes the dream work. And if I don't have those people around me and I'm having those money conversations, and if I'm especially with my intensity, sometimes people take it like negative, and their money trauma shows up because I'm just genuine in my communication and business intelligent, having fiscal responsibility and financial intelligent people around me is what allows me to then be creative and continue to manifest and build deeper and more meaningful relationships to then co-create and do bigger things moving forward. But what I've discovered, this has been again, my discovery is learning that we need each other.
Yes. Yes. And then it's that complementary piece. What is it? Do what you do best and find someone to complement the rest, or I just botched that up, but something along that, something along that. Uh, yes. Yes. And then for them, they're doing what they do best, and then you are complimenting them, and everyone is fulfilled.
Tell me about you and teamwork.
Well, I think it's exactly what we just talked about. So I was never a team sport person. Always individual sports, always. Group projects. I was good with group projects, but I always liked the team, kind of what we're talking about. This is what I can do well. This is what you can do well. So you go do your thing. I'll go do my thing. We'll bring it together in the end. There was not a lot of the actual work was individual, and then we brought it together in the end. I think I'm getting better at that too, which is the brainstorming of the ideas and the sharing and actually working together. And it's probably because I am now working with team sports. I am now working with business teams, and I'm part of that. So even though I didn't really have a lot of that growing up, because I was always in the individual, it was a group assignment, but we all did our share, or the individual teams, individual sports. Now having a role in teams, in businesses, and being a sports psychologist, with a team, it's it's uh it's actually nice to pass the baton, to here, you take this for a second so I can recover, and then bring it back to me so you can recover. And then, so the back and forth, and then also holding hands and walking up that mountain together, that I have more experience with now. And it's a beautiful thing. But you have to have the right partner, like you said. Because if you don't, one person will always be pulling the other one up, or the other one is dragging them down. When two people walk into a room, I believe, as you, I believe, do, everything is contagious, right? That's why you're choosing to surround yourself by certain people, and me too. When two people walk into a room, let's just say one is just to be really polarizing, one's a positive, one's negative person in the moment. One of three things is going to happen. People are going to walk in, they're positive and they're negative, and walk out their same state. Or positive person is going to take the negative person over to the bright side, or the negative person is going to take the positive over to the dark side. And so we just have to be really careful that piece, that third option, doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and making sure also because that's the duality we all have, right? That shadow, light, and the positive, negative, whatever we can call that. And I love that the way that you bring that up, because what we can do is we can find harmony or balance, no pun intended,
Yeah.
and really just walk in that centeredness of really honoring. And I think what does that for me anyways is principles. So I really abide by principles, of integrity and alignment, communication, impeccability, honoring, not taking things personally, things like this. Because if the principles are the ones that guide us, that will be what defines us. as a team, as a leader, as a community, as a humanity. And
Yeah.
uh, what's the big vision that you have now, or do you have a big vision kind of moving forward? What's the plan? What's the where what's next for your magic, Haley?
Youth, and
Beautiful.
not even, well, youth, but also I correct that. It's not just young, um, because I also have a passion for, let's say, like the you don't have to be in university. I'm just going to share that age group, like 18 to 25. I have in the last 2 years, I've kind of come back to this group, not only, but it is a passion of mine, working with kids and then this young adults, young adults, to maintain curiosity. Just, at the time of this recording, the Super Bowl happened, in a few weeks ago. And Patrick Mahomes, who's, one of the best quarterbacks of our time, he lost the game. And in a post interview, he said, losing hurts more than winning feels good. And it made me think for a moment. And I understand what he's saying. The expectations, and he's not an old person, he's a young person, but for all of, and this is not just for young people, but all of us. But I think in the life, the expectations, the pressure to succeed and to, I don't even really believe it's about being perfect, but just to succeed and to win and to meet our expectations. When you meet those expectations, it's almost more of a relief than an excitement and a celebration. Thank goodness I did it, because we were expecting, or they were expecting, or I've been doing, it was more of a relief. And I want to change that. Because to me, if you're feeling relief when you succeed and not celebration, you've lost all the curiosity and the openness and what can happen. Like, I had an athlete come to me a couple of weeks ago with the frustration, it's so close and I'm not getting it. It's so close and I'm not getting it. And when we left that session, you'll hear it in my tone. It's so close and I'm not getting it, turned into, it's so close. Here I come. It's so close. Here I come. And instead of it, what must happen, it's what can happen. So I want to help. And that's why I'm targeting, just because I'm have the ability to be in front of young people. I want to keep that curiosity and that excitement, adventure alive, instead of the relief. Thank goodness I achieved what I've been striving and working so hard to achieve. It's yes. What else is out there?
That's so beautiful, and it's so needed, especially right now with the mental health use crisis, and these insecurities that are being passed down to them from their parents or their parents' parents or generational. So it's nice to see that, that is a big focus, because I believe that we're here to really focus on cultivating a meaningful approach for our future generations, so that we actually live by those principles, as I mentioned, integrity, and leave this world behind better than when we found it. And so, my thought is always like, I think, hundreds of years into the future, uh, especially some people are like, Eric, you're from the future. What the fuck? um,
But you're also a very old soul to people. Is that you, you're from the future, but you're also very
yeah,
grounded
so
and
to them, it's like, hey, it's because I can foresee so many things, right? And I
mm,
mean, the past nor the future, when we're in the present, we realize that it's really just a responsibility. And I think that when we identify the patterns of the past, we can utilize the present to create for the future. And that's what, my mission here is on planet Earth. Because I feel, very connected to making sure that people or youth don't have to go through the trial and the hell that I walked through. So, I had I'm an intense guy. So, as you can imagine, I went through some intensity. And that experience has made me really, really strong and centered. And it allows also, I want the youth to be able to have more ease because it doesn't mean we take away from their strength. However, the ease is also allows the creativity to come through, the feminine energy to come through us, right? So I don't believe that they have to have it as hard as us. I don't believe that, oh, I went through hell, so you must too. No, that's bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. And these cycles that people talk about, that I hear a lot of thought leaders talk about, all these cycles have been going on for 80 years or 100 years or this. I think it's bullshit. I think it's saying, oh, that's happening, so I'm not going to take responsibility from it. So in 100 years, you must take responsibility for it. And so I think, again, we can change that behavior by doing what you're beautifully doing already and focusing on the youth and empowering them and helping them and listening to them to find solutions so that we can take their ideas and we can implement them so that they have ease and grace with integrity and curiosity. Magic. So I call magic meaningful action with grace, integrity, and curiosity. Makes magic.
Whoa. Meaningful action with grace. Where am I in the word? Integrity and curiosity. Beautiful. And what you also talk about responsibility. If I can, I don't know how much time we have, but if I can share one more quick story just about, again, two people walking into that room. I was where a mother called me and her son doesn't want to go to practice anymore because the coach isn't good and the athletes aren't as good. And he just, why should he try? And to me, that's the negativity pulling him down. In his story, I never spoke to the coach. I never spoke to the team. So I'm just listening to his frame of reference. And that to me is, I'm even okay if both people walk in and leave their states, but the influence of negative pulling positive down to the dark side, which is what he was explaining to me, I'm that's fearful to me. So, it's you're either going to stay in your zone or you're going to help bring them to the bright side. And that takes responsibility. Pride. Well, I didn't make mine up. You made your magic up, but I do love the acronym PRIDE, personal responsibility in delivering excellence. And excellence is not about perfection, and excellence is not about the outcome. Excellence is being able to ask yourself, did I give it my all right in that moment? Did I show up in the way that I am proud of? And
And
I do believe we can all learn that.
you're doing it. I just want to share that. It's beautiful.
Thank
What's
you.
the best way people can connect with you? And is there any products or books or anything that you've got out that you would like people to pay attention to, so that yeah, they can find out more about you and your magic?
Yeah, thank you for asking. My website is the best place to truly connect because you can opt in and then write me a message, and I am the person that gets that. Very, very clear on that for myself and for everyone. So you can go just to my website at drhaleyperlus.com. And there you have access to my book, Personal Podium, and my 3 master classes, How to Beat Defeat, Self-Belief, and if you are injured, the injury mindset, and all other things that will come up as we continue on our path.
Amazing. I have
Thank you. And thank you.
one last question before you go. If you had 3 days left to live, what would you be doing?
I would be dancing. Can I do it can I be in the mountain one day and the beach one day? Because I want my feet in the water. I want the fresh air of the mountains, and I'd be dancing with my man. And it really would really just be very quiet. Nature, love, health, love, adventure.
Beautiful. Haley,
Yeah. Interesting.
thank you for taking the time. I encourage you to go do some of those things today. You never know. So,
Already did
have some,
this morning.
there you go. So it sounds like the answer is you're already doing it.
Yeah, just yes. And there's more, but yes. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. I learned a lot from you today. Eric, thank you. I want to say Eric Balance just because I want to bring the word in, but I don't know everyone else. But thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for teaching. And thank you for allowing me to share.
Big love. Appreciate you.